Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Izuku has error quirk, part 1. Subscribe if you enjoy the video. Let's begin the story. Long had Midoriya Izuku wondered why his quirk was unlike both of his parents. He remembered the visit to the doctor, as they tried to find what his quirk could be very clearly, as if it was only yesterday. It is strange, the doctor muttered, massaging his beard. Your boy has a quirk, but not one I could observe, but so far the tests have come up negative. No object attraction, flame breath, or a combination of the two. He didn't understand much back then, but he perked up when the doctor said quirk. The boy's gaze turned to his mother, who then asked. She looked scared, and the boy wondered why. Did Izuku not inherit either or one of our quirks? The doctor shook his head in negative. That is yet to be seen, Midoriya-san, but likely. What is clear is that the likeliness is slim since it didn't manifest in the quirk test. Little Izuku may have a different quirk. Different? Izuku found himself asking. He felt his heart sped up and looked at the doctor's face. Is that bad? Izuku said, looking at his mom as he grabbed her arm. No, Izuku, the smile the doctor gave him shook away some of his fears before he turned to his mom. It is not bad, but surprising. Do you like surprises? His kid self nodded happily. It is on the rare side. I've seen cases like this, the parents come back and ask why their child didn't inherit their quirk and was something new. Chances are young Izuku here will probably not have both of your quirk, but a combination from both you and husband's line. Aw, that was kinda sad for Izuku. To not get his mom's or father's quirks broke his heart. Don't worry Izuku, his mom's warm smile bears on him. Whatever quirk you have, mommy will always love you. Stifling a giggle, she then said, maybe you'll get a quirk like All Might's. Doesn't that sound good? That didn't sound so bad now for the young Izuku, but he wanted his parents' quirk. Maybe he'll get a quirk like All Might. The quirk like All Might. Ooh, that meant he could save people from burning buildings by punching the fire away. Allow me to explain why that might be the case. Any word that the doctor said then had been over the head of young Izuku and forgotten. Have you heard about the quirk singularity theory? The doctor asked. Looking at his wrist and flexing it, the green-haired boy smiled sheepishly to himself. It took a lot of time before they figured it out, involving a surprise who disappeared and him thinking he had made the blonde boy disappear. That was one wild day. Their teacher explained about career assessment test results, but then just threw the papers into the air. You all just want to be heroes, don't you? He said, giving them a blank stare, already expecting it would happen. His classmates cheered. Don't lump me with these losers, sensei, Kitsuki said, annoyed. Izuku gave his best friend a sharp look, to which the other teen snorted. He learned long ago that to curb Kaken's tendencies, he himself had to sharpen his fangs to stop his friend with his hot tendencies and impulses. What you said, Deku. It's not like they'll make it to UA with their quirks. Only you and I aced the mock test, rebuked by his friend. He didn't let up his hard stare and temporarily forgot he was in their classroom. Kaken grumbled and didn't say anything more. Haha, the teacher chuckled while wiping his face. I heard you, and Midoriya plans to enroll in UA. Izuku blushed at being called. His classmates chattered, probably about him, since not one of them ever saw his quirk. He didn't want them to be his friends because of his quirk alone, just like. God knows he had seen it when they were young. The green-haired youth didn't want to be mean, but those two companions of his only hang out with him because of Kitsuki's status of having a powerful quirk and status. No. He'll gain friends because of who he was, not because of what he has. It didn't make matters better since various reports of people with strange quirks all over Japan began disappearing that started years ago, worse months ago. He didn't know why because it wasn't solved yet, but it scared him because his emitter quirk was on the rare side just like those that were taken. How can he get to UA without his quirk? Yeah, how can Bakugo even hang out with him? He didn't let the whispers get to him then, he wasn't about to now. Damn right, Kitsuku grinned. What is a hero without a sidekick? And you? The explosive blonde pointed at people who said those whispered to each other. Deku has better quirk than you people could ever dream of. Izuku shrunk as he felt more eyes on him, but they said nothing since the hothead reacted. Second to mine, of course. Of course, I was going to say that. He rolled his eyes. School went uneventful after that as he focused on riding the quirk of the earlier villain attack and the debut of the new hero, Mount Lady. A hero with alteration type quirk, specifically a gigantification quirk. Boy, Deku, a rough voice called and saw it was only his best friend, Bakugo Kitsuki. Class is over, stop muttering to yourself, damn nerd. Even sensei didn't bother to stop you knowing it's useless. Izuku smiled abashedly, being easily caught red-handed. What can he say? It's a habit now since he can think better when he can speak it out loud. Sorry, I was lost in thought. His friend looked at his notebook uninteresting and picked it up. He constantly flipped through all of his notes, just thinking of something. Kaken's red eyes glared at him, and if he had laser vision Izuku was pretty sure he'd be dead. You better not be chickening out on UA. I won't have my sidekick walk out on me. Izuku immediately waved those concerns away. Heh, no way, the green-haired youth chuckled, rubbing his nape. It was their promise to get in UA since childhood, he wouldn't, or rather couldn't, break that promise. No, I was thinking of my quirk. Maybe one of my relatives had something close to my quirk. I've searched it, and only 5 or 10 have been registered with quirks similar to mine every 2 decades. Bakugo grunted and raised his eyebrows in return. What about it? Rare or not, don't think your quirk would defeat my awesome quirk. Grabbing his bag, the green-haired teen followed his friend out of the room. That's why you're my sidekick. You'll be the sidekick that gets me everywhere. The boy only shrugged and rolled his eyes good-naturedly while smiling. Right, wouldn't think of it cause sidekick. Raising his eyebrows in mock ignorance, he then asked, so, what was the score again? Hakan gritted his teeth as explosions covered his arms. Whatcha say, you damn nerd. His explosive friend tried grabbing him, tried to probably ruffle his hair roughly, but Izuku stepped back and his vision then filled with red. He now looked at his friend holding nothing but air. Why are you playing with yourself? He sniggered at his friend. DCH, Kaken sneered, his expression turning sour. Whatever, Deku. Wanna hang out? We'll go to the arcade today. I don't think I can. You know how I don't get along with those two. It's not that he hated those two, but believe him, he tried to, but he just doesn't click with them. See you later. Itsuki simply waved and turned right on the school exit while he turned left. It was a relatively quiet walk for Izuku. There were only a few people that he encountered in the quiet afternoon. Just as he was about to pass the tunnel, a watery sound came behind him that shook his nerves. A huge green slime came out of the sewer and was grinning menacingly down on him. What? Izuku gasped. He slowly walked backward, away from the slime who came from the sewer that was eyeing him. He doesn't like the look of that grinning face. The medium-sized cloak. The moment the slime moved forward, he scrambled backward. A villain. He thrusts his arms forward, creating a single large dark red vortex that went towards his assailant. A splattered sound hit the pavement as the hiss of his portal opened far away from him. His breath hitched and his body became sluggish all of a sudden as his breath became heavier. Despite that, he immediately ran to retrieve his backpack. He and the slime villain silently stared at each other for a good while. The boy was thankful that there was no one in sight. Izuku breathed deeper and prepared to defend himself if the guy was to strike again. The villain giggled, I knew I found a good one. Just stay still and it'll be over quickly. Crap. That last one took a lot more of him than the intended energy he planned to use. The villain moved faster than he could anticipate this time and was prepared to open another when the sewer cover flew up. From it came a muscular man with 2 strands of rising hair that left Izuku speechless. He may not see it for he was covered in the shadows, but this shape, he recognized it. Of all places he'd seen the hero, he was here now. Impossible. The man's boot stomped heavily on the pavement and echoed in the tunnel. It's alright now, young man. His hero thundered, the voice commanding yet filled with positivity. Izuku would recognize that voice quickly. It's the deep voice that gives inspiration to many. The voice that gives fear to the villains. He listened to him most of the time to know how the man between him and the villain sounds like. His body couldn't move or respond. All Might. Because I am here. Izuku crossed his arms in defense when the villain sent forth sludge whips, but All Might only stood still in his place. He could see from his view, the blonde superhero put 1 foot forward and his arm flexed back. Texas smash. Screamed the number 1 hero. For the teen, it was one to see it on screen, but another to witness it personally. The wind howled just from All Might's punch alone. The attack scattered the viscous body of the sludge and made it rain green villain slime on the other side of the tunnel. His Texas smash was so powerful that he found himself being pushed back despite standing behind All Might. No wonder he is the number 1 hero. No other hero's strength can compare to his. That reassuring smile melted away his fears and worries. Running to the hero, Izuku focused on the now falling green substance by raising his arms. Many small red vortexes opening appeared as the sludge then landed near All Might. He winces at the effort to do it, but he bears with it and continues. Thank you, young man, stated the superhero, who had him blushing furiously as the blonde man started picking it up and putting it in a plastic container. All Might was talking to him. Him of all people. Someone pinch him. Then no problem. Damn it, Izuku. Get yourself together. He stopped his shaking, or rather did his best. It's all I can do from solving me. Approaching Almighty who was already done with the objective, Izuku shakily grabbed the notebook in his bag. Bowing deeply, the green-haired youth blushed with his notebook stretched out. Will you please sign my notebook? All Might simply laughed, of course, young man. No need to be shy. Izuku could hardly contain his shock and excitement. This is the best day ever. He squealed internally and couldn't wait to tell. When the hero still hasn't returned his 13th notebook, he looks up to see All Might looking deep in thought. The hero said, humming in thought, hey, this analysis isn't bad. Say, young man, are you planning to enter the USA? A quirk like yours would be good at rescue. The grin he sported could have broken his jaw, but did so anyway by nodding fervently. Yes. Me and my best friend. We want to become a symbol of peace like you. The blonde number 1 hero laughed heartily. That is a good dream. I'm a curious young man, is there an analysis of me and my quirk? His heart couldn't get more fluttered in his excitement. All Might want to read my notebook. Yes, All Might. The teen grabbed his most recent analysis notebook with the All Might quirk updated. Ah ha ha. This is truly impressive analysis. Most of it was just speculations and conclusions, most footage of All Might using his quirk and even going as far as to think of how much his limit in terms of weight, why his punch could cause the weather to change, and such possible limits, and all he could think of. Asking permission, All Might photographed his analysis. He didn't care why, all that mattered to him now was his work impressed a hero. Signing his latest hero notebook, All Might then gave him a big grin as he then flexed his feet. Well, it is nice meeting you, young man, but I need to get this guy to the police now. See you on the other side of the screen. Just like that, the hero was gone in a flash, a wind blast, as he only saw the blur of All Might's figure soaring on the sky. I met All Might, he said slowly, as if it was all a dream. I met All Might. I met All Might. Slapping his cheeks, he screamed. This was the best day ever. He even showed him his analysis and signed his notebook. He walked home faster and gleefully skipping with every step. He didn't mind the weird looks people had given him. His phone beeped and it was his mother texting him to buy some ingredients for the food at the house. Guess he'll have to take a detour. Izuku's excitement didn't wane one bit as he walked to the shopping district. All he could think of was meeting the greatest hero. Looking on the eastern part right where the shopping district was, smoke wafted up to the clouds. Another villain attack. Wondered the teen as he walked towards the place. Police cars surrounded the place and people gathered before the police barrier, urging the people to go away. His eyes widened and was shocked to see the same slime that attacked him earlier rampaging in the fiery district. Where's All Might? He uttered. Why are the heroes doing nothing? Someone asked. They can't. Physical abilities are nullified by the slime's body. The heroes that gathered won't be effective. They can't. Apparently, the villain caught a junior high schooler. It's been like that for a while. All around him people chatter about some poor schoolboy. Kamui Woods, Mount Lady, Death Arms and Backdraft were unable to do anything. Nor would they be able to do anything, their quirks were unsuitable for the situation. Mount Lady couldn't fight in an enclosed space. She could grab the villain, but the possibility of hurting the hostage was there. With all the fire everywhere and the viscosity of the sludge villain, it wouldn't be detained easily, more so with the hostage on the line by Kamui Woods. The wood would just be destroyed by fire and constant explosions. On the other hand, Death Arm's strength was useless against the sludge villain, and Backdraft was busy dousing the fire caused by explosions to assist. Wait, explosions. He peered into the monster where every blow he made caused an explosion. Please don't let it be. The teen wanted to close his eyes, but he could not. Not until he knew it. His heart exploded with worry upon seeing the hostage of the sludge villain. A familiar mop of blonde hair, far away as he may be, it was still discernible. The blonde hair stood out in the distance and looked to be thrashing in defiance. Akin, whispered Izuku. Clenching his hand without moving, raised his arms but stopped at the last second. Focusing on visual focal points, red swirls came from both sides of the rampaging villain. His gaze moved towards the villain, slowly sucking its body and expelling it behind them. As he did this, he squinted his eyes and clenched his fists and feet fighting against his slowly wavering body just to keep himself standing. Or quirk. Where did it come from? Mount Lady asked as her large form examined the environment. We got a vigilante, was Death Arm's words. The people chattered and the heroes looked around for the source, but he opted to ignore it in favor of controlling the warp gates. He didn't stop until only a small part of the villain remained. When his body threatened to fall down, the warp user bared the fatigue and continued with the people all around unaware. Only when he was done did he disperse the gates and allow himself to stagger forward a little whilst breathing deeply. We'll deal with that later. Look, the sludge villain's body is decreasing, Backdraft said loudly to the wood quirk hero. Kamui, get the boy. But the villain nearly incapacitated, the heroes temporarily forgot about him, with the help of Kamui Woods, forcefully yanking Kitsuki out of the danger. The police then surrounded the villain with containers on the ready. Move, move. The police ordered as they marched towards the containment van to gather more containers. They gave way to the police as they contained the large sum of the slime. Izuku could feel himself sweating so much as they constantly came to and fro. I committed a crime. The law couldn't care if it was for saving a friend. If they ever find out it was him, they can accuse him of vigilantism. Excusing himself quickly before he fell, he made his exit. That alone took a lot out of him. Hopefully, those who knew would be quiet. He doesn't want to go to jail before achieving his dream. His chest became heavier with each step the more he wallowed on what he'd done. His mind roiled with possibilities of what would happen now. Would he still be able to go to the USA? Heck, would he be even accepted now that this one act smeared his shiny record if they found out of his deed? Regardless of that, did he regret it? No, was the simple answer. But damn it, did it make what the weight he was currently feeling any easier or lesser? No, he can't bear the thought of earning the disappointing looks of his mom when she found out what he'd done. Still, clenching his fist and shaking his head, I would do it again. For his family, friends, he would do so without hesitation. He carefully, slowly walked away from the scene and hoped no one would notice him. Turning left to an alley, he was about to open a portal when a voice called. This made him turn and wince. I'm sorry, I had no choice. In the back of his mind, a voice like Kitsuki scoffed and said, way to go, keep the secret, nerd. He could just imagine his blonde friend's annoying and condescending smirk. Young man, wait. Called the person again, and he sighed in relief. It wasn't the police. The person calling him was a blonde frail man wearing white tees and dark green cargo pants too large for his size. The boy breathed out in relief to see it was just a man. Thank you for waiting, young man, the man said, catching his breath. The sickly person clutched his chest for a minute and Izuku supported him, afraid that the man would fall from the deep breaths he did. I wanted to talk to you about something. Would you walk with me? The man coughed blood which deeply concerned the teen. Izuku had no choice because the man looked like he could fall any second now and was in need of quick help in case it happened. Was he sick and needed to go to the hospital? Do you need to go to the hospital? Yogi Toshinori. Yogi-san. Just call me Toshinori, the man said with a smile, as his deep blue eyes looked like they were staring beyond Izuku's green eyes and into his very soul. Izuku reached out a hand and Yogi-san gladly shook Midoriya Izuku. Would you like me to accompany you to the hospital, Toshinori-san? That is nice, Midoriya-kun, but it's fine. I'm used to him, but that didn't reassure Izuku. For all he knew, the man might need help now. Letting himself be directed by Yogi-san to a barren street, but he knew his way around it. It was one of the direct routes home. I wanted to say that I know what you did. I saw you move your hands when the portals appeared. Terror gripped his heart when the man whispered this. He'd been discreet in his action. The teen made sure of it himself. Is he gonna blackmail me for his silence? What does he want? Please don't tell the cops. I only did it to save my friend, begged Izuku. It was the truth, no more, no less. Kakin needed saving. He would have said more had the man not raised his hand stopping his tirade. Toshinori-san put an arm around his shoulder and gently prodded him to walk beside him. I will not do that, Izuku. I came to you with a suggestion. Izuku wasn't wary enough of Yogi-san, he seemed friendly enough, but he was nervous about what he was going to say. But first of all, why did you do that? Suddenly his throat felt heavy and guilt settled in his chest. I couldn't let my friend suffer at the hands of the villain. The heroes were doing their best, but I was afraid for my friend. I was making warp gates before I knew it. Please don't tell anyone. I'll never do it again. Relax, soothed the frail-looking man. I won't. Your body moved on its own, didn't it? The teen nodded blankly at the man's words, having no clue where he was going with the talk. Did you know what heroes had in common? He could only silently shake his head in negative. Where was Yogi-san going with this? They have stories about them from their school days. Most of their stories have one thing in common, their bodies moved before they had a chance to think. Izuku remembered his childhood days. Pick someone your own size. The younger faced a group of 3 older kids while defending a crying boy. Stop it. That's not good. The older boy sneered, what are you gonna do about it? Tell your mama. Another scene came to him, back when it was still wild, as a fire. What are you gonna do about it, Deku? A young grinning madly asked. A fist to the palm causing explosions. He was shaking, nervous even, but his friend was being mean, and no hero should be like that. A friend would help a friend see that they are wrong. Breathing deeply, fists closed tightly. A scream came from him as his hand hit Kakin's cheek while the other kids gasped in shock. You can't do that. All Might is never that mean. He helps people. Various experiences of beatdowns from bullies came to the fore when Yogi-san said this. Nights his mother would admonish him for being beaten by those ruffians for doing what's right. For defending those being bullied. He always wanted to help people. To inspire them. Just like All Might would as he laughed in the face of danger. He wanted to be just like his dad who helped the little guys that the heroes missed. Toshinori-san grinned rather scarily with his skeletal body. Did you regret what you did? Izuku could only stammer. His mother, Katsuki, may scold him for being brash and facing danger. A little part of him called on his hypocrisy if he did so, for doing what he did, but he will do it again no matter what. It's like it's a part of him that he got rid of. No, he replied, looking into the sky. Yagi-san's body hardened and gained muscles gradually. Leaning away from his support, the man left him wide-eyed in surprise. When Izuku looked up, he stammered. For the second time of the day, here before Izuku, a hopeful and ambitious student wanting to be a hero, was All Might in all his glory. Of course, Izuku did the only thing reasonable. He screamed and stumbled away from the number one hero. All Might. What are you doing here? He pointed to the hero with nervous fingers. I'm sorry. Please don't arrest me. Izuku bowed to the hero. Said the hero's laughter thundered in the solemn neighborhood. Don't worry, young Midoriya. I only wanted to see you. To offer you a, All Might coughed blood before he could finish his words, as smoke covered the man and transformed him to the sickly frail man from before. To offer you a suggestion. The man said it very easily, as if it didn't bother him that his identity was revealed to him. Not that he wasn't grateful. It was a big honor to know his all-time favorite hero's real identity, and for All Might to be nonchalant about it, then it meant he trusted him. What suggestion would All Might offer him? To turn him in? Oh, God. Why aren't you arresting me? I did a crime. Relax, young Midoriya. As I said, I'm not here to turn you to the police. I'll gladly explain what happened earlier to clear your name after this. Just this once though, heroism outside of the law is a punishable offense, the man's assuring gaze from his shadowed eyes. Young man, you're worthy of inheriting my power. Inherit your power. Did he really mean that? All throughout the internet, there are a lot of speculations as to what All Might's quirk is. Super strength, enhancement. But none ever mentioned it being inherited. How is it inherited? As far as I know, there hasn't been a case of it since the beginning. Impossible. It's simply unheard of. Does All Might mean in a metaphorical way? Hey, if you would let me explain then you would have your answer. Izuku blushed. He was muttering again. Sorry, it's a habit. Tabloids call it super strength and boost. In interviews I dodged the questions with a funny joke because the symbol of peace, All Might, had to be a natural-born hero. All Might, no, Izuku refused to call him that even in his mind when the hero trusted him with the information about his quirk like no one before has. But in truth, my quirk has been passed down to me like a sacred torch. Passed down? Were his only words. But that's. The number one hero's eyes were looking into his soul now as he replied, the power to pass down. That is the quirk I inherited. I was crowned one for all. All Might said this with the deepest reverence he'd seen the hero does in all his life, as his fan. One person cultivates the power and passes it to another person who also cultivates it, then passes it on. It is the crystallization of power that spins together with the voices of those who need help with a courageous heart. Izuku was speechless. It was impossible for a quirk to be inherited that way. No study had shown such a thing before. Even if what All Might said was true, he was unworthy to receive such power. Izuku's knee gave up and he fell on the pavement rear first. Young man, are you okay? All Might made a motion to support him, but the green-haired teen simply refused it. It's fine, it's my quirk. Making warp gate saps my strength faster than I'd like, Izuku admitted. Let's talk somewhere private. It took a lot longer to open a portal, but he did. He knew this place was quiet, as seldom did people go to this old playground. Sorry about using my quirk in public. They sat on a rusted swing. Ah, it is fine. I'm sorry about Midoriya-kun. Your friend had to suffer from my mistake when the bottle fell from my pocket, All Might said, his fist tightening. I was not there to intervene because I cannot keep my form beyond 3 hours. No. Please don't apologize to All Might. Izuku would not let All Might apologize. He cannot deny that Kaken was put in great danger because of All Might, but bad luck happens to everyone, right? No, I must because he was nearly killed by the sludge villain. The teen sighed. Apology accepted. He just decided to shift the topic to a safer one. All Might, why can't you be a hero for more than 3 hours? I got injured from a villain I fought 5 years ago. Toshinori-san lifted his shirt and Izuku had to gasp at the wound on his left side right where the lung would be. The old wound had a glaring purple in it with spiderweb cracks. He resisted the urge to touch it and with a wince of twisted fascination, wanted to know what villain was powerful enough to injure him like that. 5 years? He racked his mind of All Might's fight in those times. Was that when you fought the toxic chainsaw? You're well informed, but that punk couldn't defeat me. That was a fight not made public because I asked them to. Even with my weakness, I will always smile. To ease the fears of others and to trick my fears. The symbol of peace cannot be daunted by evil. It was scary how the number one eyes told all the story that he shivered just from the gaze alone. The eyes of the hero before him carried fear underneath all that smile. It made the All Might seem more human in his eyes. It was a scary prospect to think of a villain that could evenly fight and even injure All Might. He didn't know who it was, but he had no desire to know so. The fight destroyed half of my respiratory organ and my stomach. He swallowed hard and averted his gaze at All Might's hidden wound. It was hard to digest, because who knew that the symbol of peace was in such a state. I've become emaciated from repeated surgeries and after effects, that's why I can only work as a hero for 3 hours. Are you dying, All Might? Is that why you want to pass it down? He couldn't have a world without All Might because he was foremost the one who decreased the crime rate in their country and stabilized it with his presence, giving the heroes the chance to crack down against villains, mafia, and criminals. The hero clenched his fist. No, but I am getting weaker. Soon, my body would not be able to transform and the world without a symbol of peace. If that happens, evil will reign. That is why I ask you, will you bear the crown of one for all? Will you accept my power? It was all going too fast for him that he couldn't help but tear up at the honor of being chosen worthy by All Might. Never did he imagine in 1,000 years to be asked this question. The chances of him being asked the question by his hero were zero, yet here he was experiencing it. Izuku's lips shivered in indecision. Why? Why him of all people? The man put a hand on his shoulder, and he was sure the skeleton form of All Might was grinning. As I told you earlier, this quirk is passed from one person to another to those who are deemed worthy of the holder. I saw the fire in your eyes when you saved your friend. I saw a hero's soul. So, young Midoriya, will you accept one for all? This wasn't a dream, was it? Was everything now a really good dream wherein he was recognized by his idol? His eyes watered for being given such an honor. Yes. Yes. Izuku woke up on a Saturday day and jogged to Dagaba Municipal Beach Park of all places. He had no idea why All Might chose that place. It's not like he and Katsuki didn't use the place on their training many times before. He wondered because it was famous for being a jungle, and he thought that someone, as famous as All Might, would choose a much better place than Dagaba Beach where much garbage, trash, and everything was littered. While jogging on the way, he still couldn't stop thinking of yesterday and how surreal it was. Of all people, why did All Might choose him as the successor of One for All? It seemed like a story out of a shounen manga or a Super Sentai show. There probably are better people than him. He was a nobody. Sure, warp quirks are rare as they get, but that's all he has. At the end of the day, that's all he had aside from good grades and a dream to be a hero. Another matter was, how does one pass down a quirk? It was simply unheard of for Izuku. No quirk could ever be passed down aside from genetic relation. If the conspiracy theorists on the internet were to be believed, then there's also the legend of the quirk stealer from the 21st century. The Bujiman type of legend rumored to have the power to take people's quirks and was once known as the underground leader, while the government was still reorganizing itself from the appearance of quirks by setting up quirk laws, quelling anti-quirk protests, and controlling vigilantism. It was all debated whether this was true on some websites, but no evidence was shown like a photo, a video, or a document that could somehow prove the man was real. Eventually, he reached the beach, and just like every time he comes to the place, the trash was as high as it could get and was looking a little taller than when he'd been here last time. The stacks of junks blocked out the beautiful sunrise of clear weather. All Might was already there and was doing some stretches and motioned for him to do the same. They stretched silently for a while, but Izuku had to break the silence by asking a question that bugged him from the beginning. All Might, what are we doing here? Said hero's head turned to him beaming widely. Why, to train you, of course. As of now, your body is better than I thought it would be, but it is still not suited for One for All yet. One for All is the fullest physical ability of many people into one. An unprepared body cannot inherit it fully, and the body will explode. Explode? He shivered just imagining his body exploding and his gut scattering everywhere from using an out-of-control One for All. That's how powerful the number one hero was, he could control this power with ease. No wonder he remained on top for many years when the top hero listings on the second and below kept shifting. So, we came here to train my body by picking trash. All Might gave a big thumbs up, yes. Walking towards what looked like an old fridge he then said, but that's not all. After some research on the internet, I found out that this part of the beach park has been like this for years. Yeah, Izuku replied. He and Kaken went here from time to train and practice their quirks since this junkyard was devoid of people. The teen had to say that he remembered when it was still clean and the trash was still piling up. The beach was beautiful then. They were 10 or was it 9? For some reason, because of the current, objects drift here a lot. It doesn't help that people take advantage of this to hide their illegal dumping. Not many locals come here too. I suppose it would make sense that you chose this place to train. All Might took a rope somewhere on his body and tied it around the fridge. Not only that, Midoriya-kun. Heroes today are all about the showy stuff, but did you know being a hero originally meant doing community service? Before the emergence of Quirk, the heroes were the policemen, firemen, doctors, and nurses. You can't waver from the route, the blonde hero extended a hand and gave the rope to him with a big grin that caused him to swallow heavily in both fear and excitement. Now shall we begin? Another day, another training, thought the youth as he plopped face down on the bed. It has been 10 months since he started the grueling training with All Might and slowly cleaning the beach-turned-junkyard. 1 month since the quirk was given to him from his diligence and effort. That was one day he won't be forgetting soon. Izuku screamed as he stood atop of the leftover junk that he piled. His body was drenched and glistening with sweat. It had been a hard day's work, but he did it. He'd never felt so happy that he wanted to jump in joy. His task was finished, and it honestly felt so good to achieve something to make his hero proud. Would his dad approve of him if he were still alive? With a tired wave of his hand, Izuku opened a portal below him and dropped into the sand. He was tired, but at the same time full of energy that he didn't know if he should move or stay still. After that chastising of overworking the body from All Might, it was a lesson he'd taken to heart. One cannot immediately surpass their limits. Rushing can be detrimental if taken to the extreme. It takes time and dedication. His dedication did indeed pay off when he felt happy upon completion of his task from months ago. Kid, he smiled at the hero above him even as he was being gently slapped. Wake up. No need to sleep now. It's time. I did it, All Might. Shaky as his smile may be, he still beamed at his mentor. The number one hero beamed at him in return, causing his heart to flutter in joy. Yes, you did it, you entertainer. You finished it earlier than I expected. You did it. Now, you have become a worthy vessel of inheriting my power. Toshinori-san held out a hand, which Izuku gladly took as he then pulled up. Izuku closed his hand tightly and felt it shake with strength. It feels like I'm cheating. Here I am being tutored by the number one hero. He felt his tears threatening to burst out and All Might patting his back somehow made it go away. Nonsense. Now it is time for the award ceremony, young Midoriya. All Might's eyes held pride in them as he said this. Any more joy would make his heart burst. The hero plucked a strand of his blonde hair. Someone once told me that something you received because you are lucky and something that you are given because you are recognized are different in essence. Take that to heart. He was not gonna cry. He was not gonna cry. Take this power that you earned from your own effort. Izuku could barely hold his tears back from All Might's speech, but he held it back through sheer effort. Eat this. A single statement alone caused him more confusion than ever before in his life. All Might had told him many times that training in UA would be grueling and that he should be prepared for it. He was given 1 week's rest after that day. They would now advance to learn the basics of One for All and with training his own quirk. His body was sore from their last day training this evening. All Might really pushed him hard tonight and he knew it was because tomorrow is the big day. He didn't even bother changing his clothes as he fell asleep. Izuku. You're going to be late for the entrance exam. Called his mother. Looking at his phone, his eyes widened and quickly scrambled to get up when he realized it was 30 minutes before 7. He was gonna be late for the UA entrance exam. 10 minutes later, he was dressed in his uniform. He'd hardly believed it was the day. Funny how fast time flies. Do you have your lunch? A nod. Extra clothes? A nod again, and a couple of questions he was ready to leave and smiled at his mother. I'm off, Mom. Show them what you got, Izuku. She cheered. Izuku was breathless upon seeing UA. It was much bigger than seen on TV. It felt so grand, just like their motto of Plus Ultra. This is where some of the most famous heroes of Japan graduated from. And now, he would be going to this school provided he passed the entrance test too, like his All Might. Boy, Deku, on the entrance stood an impatient Katsuki, calling him loudly. Get your ass here and hurry up. His explosive best friend glowered at him. People looked at him and muttered rather loudly, isn't that Bakugo? The one from the sludge villain incident. Small explosions came from his friend. He didn't like talking about that incident and he understood why. Katsuki did not take being made hostage and was seen as helpless in that incident lightly. Izuku jogged to his friend and fumbled when he tripped on something. He expected himself to hit the ground but opened his eyes a second later and found himself floating. Whoa, are you alright? Sorry about using my quirk on you without permission, a soft voice said and touched him and returned his balance and the feeling of weight. But it'll be bad luck if you fall right. The girl had him blushing from her smile alone. The brown-haired girl with a round face smiled at him gently before patting him and ran. Let's do our best. See ya. I talked to a girl. His heart beat from the interaction alone. Deku. Get your head out of your ass. You didn't talk to her, nerd, so get that weird ass smile off your face. Ignoring the last part, he grinned at his best friend and then said, sorry Kaken, the warp user greeted. I guess training last night took a lot out of me. DCH, whatever Deku. Don't make me wait next time. Come on, he tilted his head toward the grandiose building. Haken's presence beside him was welcome because he eased Izuku's anxiety. He didn't expect less of UA to dish out at them. The test had to be something hard because their student enrollment rate was quite small. The first part was a written exam that he answered as best he could. Izuku believed that he aced most of it because it was topics they already had tackled in middle school. Though some were unfamiliar, thankfully his extra studying paid off. Soon after the exam, they were led to a large stadium-sized room, and once again, he and Kaken were arranged beside each other. "How did you do in the exam, Kaken?" Izuku asked before the orientation for the second part of the exam began. "Easy," he grunted. "Okay," he expected that, as Katsuki's reply. He beamed, "I got most of it right." Or he was pretty sure that was the case. Izuku quieted when the lights turned on and the large monitor bore the symbol of UA. "For all of you listeners tuning in, welcome to my show today." Oh my gosh. He knew that voice. It's the voice hero present Mick. Wow. Izuku rattled excitedly in his seat. "I listen to him every week on the radio. I'm so moved. All the teachers in UA are pros." His friend said something, but he didn't hear it because all he could hear was the hero on the podium. "Everybody says, hey, hey." The green-haired teen stood and shouted. His voice echoed in the stadium, causing him to flush. He even heard Kaken muttering "nerd" under his breath. His head slowly glanced around and saw the thousands of heads staring back at him, which prompted him to quickly sit back down and wanted to shrink himself immediately. "Yeah. We got ourselves a lively crowd. I'll be presenting to you the rundown of this practical exam. Are you ready? Say yeah." The hero raised his fist into the air. Izuku pulled his best friend with him, this time ignoring his protest of "what the fuck Deku," and screamed along with present Mick. "Yeah." The weight of attention didn't affect him strongly this time with Kaken in tow, but he was sure there'd be hell to pay later. "Boo. We are on fire." The long-haired blonde hero raised his arm then continued explaining. "As it says in the application requirements, you listeners will be conducting 10-minute mock combat after this." The pro voice hero then explained that in the practical exam, they will be divided into many groups and send battle centers A to G. Looking at his and his friends' cards, it seemed that they wouldn't be fighting in the same place. "DCH, Katsuki grunted in displeasure. "I won't be there to beat your nerdy ass," he said, clearly disappointed. "Don't you dare lose, Deku. No one beats you but me," his explosive friend declared, glaring at him. Izuku returned the gesture with a firm nod. Present Mick then explained the rules and what enemy they will face. Mid-explanation, a teen in a clean light brown suit asked why, as opposed to the 4 that were in the printout given, the hero only explained 3 enemies. The teen turned then pointed at them, "And you too." He could see the glare even in the darkroom and the distance between them. This is a highly professional hero training institution. This is no place to be playing around. Please take this seriously. "Whatcha say, you 4 eyes?" roared an angry Katsuki. "Why don't you say that directly to my face?" "Whoa, relax kiddies. Besides, what fun is learning when we take it too seriously?" "Moving on, you are indeed correct. There are 4 enemies in total, but the last one is more of an obstacle." It showed on the monitor, having 0 points. "There's one in every battle center. It goes crazy in a narrow space. It's not impossible to defeat, but there's no reason to defeat it either. I recommend you avoid it." Their bus arrived at the battle center B. Izuku's heart was pumping in both fear and excitement. Honestly, Izuku blamed Katsuki's for his current somewhat infectious blood-crazed excitement. The place didn't help that it was as big as a real city. Talk about too much, but Izuku guessed it followed their motto of plus ultra. Breathing deeply, he felt his chest lighten as he did so. Izuku saw the girl who helped him earlier. It looked like she was easing her worries just as he was. "I should thank her for earlier," the warp user muttered and walked in her direction. A hand clamped on his shoulder and he turned immediately to see it was the very formal guy from the orientation. "That girl appears to be trying to focus," the guy's sharp eyes zeroed at him. He could feel his anger bubble inside his chest at the accusation implied. "Are you taking the exam to interfere with everyone else?" His soft and curious gaze morphed to a glare at the accusation. "No," he responded sharply. The teen could hear that he was the one being talked about now, but ignored it in favor of returning the look this guy was giving him. "Why would you assume so? It is no assumption. It is what I saw in you when you and your friend disrupted the orientation." "Okay," he breathes heavily. That was a reasonable thing, but still, to say that they disrupted the orientation earlier was going too far. Can't he be just too excited? "You know, it's wrong to conclude without knowing the truth." "Okay, start." Present Mick's voice thundered even from atop the tower before the other could reply. "What are you waiting for? There is no real countdown in a real fight. Run. Run. The die has been cast." Izuku was surprised to see others already running. A swift raising of his arms and a red warp gate appeared as he then ran through it and caught up with the other examinees. Looking at the top of a building, I could do this, it was far, but he believed he could do it. All Might believed in him. His mother believed in him. It was within his range. Izuku kept his eyes on it and dropped into the ground and appeared atop of it, which made him breathe in relief. There, he saw, still far away, was the robots. Izuku jumped and conjured a warp gate, keeping the position in mind, screamed when he fell a few feet higher than he expected, but at the last minute clenched his fist. The power of one for all coursed swift in him, along with the red lightning streaks all over him. He hoped this didn't break his arm. Metal screeched from his strike as he landed roughly. Izuku clicked his tongue. The control was harder than in training. It was barely controllable. Another robot behind him thundered with its threads and dashed at him. Raising his arm, a swirling red vortex covered his front as the robot's whirring then ended as it smashed into another robot. His fellow examinees all around were confronting the robots. Izuku opened a gate below the 2 pointers he defeated and dropped it above a 1 and 3 pointer robots while it was distracted by its opponents. He silently apologized for stealing the kills of the two, breathing deeply as his quirks absorbed him. He fell from the sky on a different part of the mock city. More up ahead. The teen focused on making a warp and drowning out the wind. He screamed from the speed he fell as the warp user opened a gate and once again landed higher by a few feet than anticipated and rolled. He breathed deeply. Even with endurance training, it's still sapping me hard. Casting a warp gate below a dashing 3-pointer towards him, Izuku sent it crashing to the ground a few feet away from him. The teen ran and opened a portal, then moving his arm downwards, and the portal followed, swallowing the robot until it was halfway and closed it. The other half fell to the ground and the other fell behind him. Target acquired, a robot said behind him. A 1-pointer ran to him and with a swipe of his hand a warp gate flew to his target and was swallowed only to fall seconds later. This time, with a closer target, he dashed to punch it when a laser pierced it. A blonde boy with a naval belt equipment grinned at him. "Merci," he said before targeting another. Izuku, with 2 arms raised, a small warp intercepted the quirk and another hole opened facing upwards. His quirk was depleting him hard now, but he held it for a second longer before the teen stopped it. With his chance now, the 1-pointer ran to them. Izuku sent a vortex that swallowed it and made it crash behind him. Opening a gate, he came out a few meters away from the examinees in an intersection. More robots dashed towards them in all 3 directions. He screamed and ran towards a 2-pointer. "Come on. Control it. Like you usually do." The punch he did send it careening towards a building, the structure exploded in debris and smoke. He dropped to his knees to regain his lost breath. Grabbing an energy bar in his pocket, he quickly ate it and got back into the action. All across the battlefield, he appeared as fast as he could as he warped here and there, punched robots here and there. It was a taxing effort, but he didn't want to waste all the months of training. The teen remembered it pushing him on his limit. It was his life for about 10 months. He wasn't going to waste it now. "I can do this." His body may be crying now with 3 of his fingers very red and throbbing painfully. It was, as All Might said, if he can't control it, it will destroy his body. President Mick called out with only 5 minutes remaining when the ground trembled and everyone ran away. Looking up, he held his breath as a giant robot blocking the sun trudged slowly and powerfully. He could only cross his arm in defense as it punched the ground, causing tremendous quake and blew dust their way, to which he can only kneel there helplessly. When the dust cleared, everyone was already far away. The humanoid green 0-point robot blocked the wide road with its wide body and height taller than the buildings. President Mick called this an obstacle. It was only him that was left, so the teen stood on weak knees and turned. Any more warping and he'd be down for long this time. The struggling cry made him look back, and there, the girl who talked to him earlier winced in pain whilst looking fearful at the giant mechanical menace. That kind of expression does not belong in her nice face. Struggling under the debris, the girl wouldn't escape the 0-pointer in time. The teen had no time to waste, opening a warp gate in front of her, willing it to go forward. It took a little more than the usual effort, but he did it and held his hand out and caught her. Izuku didn't look back as he ran as fast as he could, even with his lungs burning and his body crying from its lack of sufficient energy. He knew he was running with adrenaline only, but it was better than nothing. "Is it still chasing us?" he asks the girl. The girl nodded. "That was bad, that was bad. If it continued to chase them, then that means it'll eventually catch on to the others, and that was the last thing he wanted." Swallowing heavily, Izuku looked at the girl. "I'll wrap you to the entrance to where the others probably are." "What?" He expected her to say that. "What about you?" "I can't lead it to the others," he replies, avoiding her gaze. He wasn't even sure if it'll stop following the 2 of them if he teleported with her and lost it. He can't let the others be in potential danger. Better safe than sorry. "Don't be scared." It may feel uncomfortable, but it's only for a second. I'm sorry about this. The warp user threw her upwards before she could reply, cutting her scream fast as lightning. Lessons of All Might for 2 weeks came to him. Okay, I can do this. His injured dominant arm kept crying, but he ignored it as he looked towards the sky. The transition from ground to air was quick as he dropped vertically from above the giant zero-point robot. Howls of the wind permeated in his ears. Focusing on the inherited quirk, it was harder with the wind and the protest from his already fatigued body. Imagining the smile of All Might even as he could only work for 3 hours served to energize his determination. Squeeze your buttocks and scream in your heart. Smash. Izuku, voice coarse, screamed. He closed his eyes, putting everything of One for All into this one strike. The resounding crack, screech, and thunder from the largest robot deafened him. A great crashing and groaning sound echoed even as the wind howled in his ears. His arms hurt like hell, thought the teen with stinging eyes as he dropped from the sky. Am I going to die? It certainly looked so. He was dropping from the sky faster than expected. The teen realized he quickly passed the top floor of a building. Turning and gritting his teeth, the green-haired youth opened the warp gate, but his grip on it was loose and he could feel it fizzle. And fizzled it the next second when he summoned One. Concentrate. Focus on bending the space before you. The whirlpool to another world. It was no use, the pain was too much. I can slow my descent with wind pressure. Please don't break. Please don't break. Izuku pulled his remaining left arm, body tight, only to grunt hard when something, especially his shoulder. His elbow stung, but forced himself through it. All he could see was blue as the one who rescued him. They were still flying. Brace yourself. His rescuer ordered amidst a rumbling. He jostled when they hit the ground and he gritted his teeth. He was held tightly by whoever rescued him as they skidded for a good while. When they stopped, his speedy rescuer knelt huffing loudly as the person set him gently on the ground. Both of them said nothing as Izuku recovered his lost breath too. He wanted to cry, but he was too spent to even do that. His heart was beating miles per second. Are you alright? Your arm is very red. What were you doing risking yourself? He flinched from the volume. If it wasn't for the girl who told us of what you did, you would have fallen to your death. The green-haired teen recognized the voice. It was the teen who scolded him earlier. Izuku couldn't reply as he was too tired, but nevertheless responded. The zero-pointer was, he struggled to say words, and it was only through his sheer determination to, chasing your direction. I couldn't let it, you guys. He faced the pavement and groaned to roll right as he clutched his right arm with gritted teeth. The teen was right, his arm looked bad and could imagine Kakin saying he looked like shit if he ever saw him. The girl? She's fine, the guy replied, propping him up. You should care for your safety more in this situation. The clattering steps of people went towards them as the chattering increased. Izuku couldn't hear what they were saying and his vision was failing him as his breathing took precedence. Time's up. The voice hero screamed. He closed his eyes. His heart was hammering his chest badly. Izuku opted to close his eyes for a second. Thanks for saving me, Ida. The teen leaned against the teen Ida-san. He didn't think his quirk could leave him in this state. Midoriya Izuku. All Might grinned brightly at Izuku on the monitor. Yes, he could admit to himself that his training was still insufficient despite their 2-week training. Even if the young man managed to break his arm a few times, he used it and that he may be beaten up, but that was better than he expected. He already got the most important part of using it. The use of the One for All may be shoddy, but it was better than nothing. His quirk was a problem too, but that was what he was for. He will be with Izuku every step of the way in his progress to master One for All. Rumors of impressed heroes were obvious. Most of them to that explosive boy. Or the shadow-wielding one. Looks like we got a promising batch this year. We even got a rare one this year, Midnight stated. A warp quirk, but the boy lacks control. A rare quirk indeed, the principal agreed. There were lots of moments he could have done better. Though he used his quirk best he could by scouting the enemies from a building. I recall seeing the same quirk on the sludge villain incident a year ago. Ashinori flinched internally at Izawa's obvious jab at him. He may have had, persuaded, his best friend with a favor to stop the investigation on the vigilantism and explaining Izuku's case. The number 1 hero may have explained how he decided to pass down One for All to Midoriya, and luckily Tsukauchi only left him with a strict warning just this once. In the end, they silenced any issues regarding the vigilante to keep villains from knowing of the quirk. It was a request from police that all information on highly potential quirks, be it witnessed, seen on videos, images, uploaded on the internet or those that made it to the news, had to be asked to be silenced to prevent further missing cases or until the cases were solved. Ashinori didn't want the news of a warp quirking individual getting out and was searched by anybody wanting to use such power. Such a rare quirk would be coveted by many villains and be used as a means of escape. It was bad enough that there were many missing person cases across Japan that had police scrambling. The missing people were individuals with highly potential quirks. It was a deeply concerning issue. I see the potential in these kids, but they aren't rational enough, especially Bakugo Katsuki, Eraserhead stated, as he turned his focus on Midoriya's explosive quirky friend. Far too excitable. Indeed, Toshinori agreed. But isn't that what UA is for? To guide them to be the heroes of tomorrow. When Izuku woke up, he found himself in a sterile white room. I see you've woken up. A voice from his right said made him turn, and he gazed at the short form of Recovery Girl smiling at him. Your friend caused quite a ruckus worrying about that arm of yours. Luckily for you, it was just your right arm and fingers. Once you've rested up, I healed your injuries. Your Recovery Girl, he began, as he tried to sit upright, but it took longer than he thought. I must have fallen unconscious. Friend. Must be Kaken. What time is it now? It's already 6 in the evening dear, the old woman said, got up and went for the door. I let you in, but be quiet. The warning from the youthful hero left no chance for debate. DCH, he smiled at the familiar sneer. I told you your conduct earlier was most unwelcome. That is why Recovery Girl kicked us out of her clinic. As a pro-hero, she deserves our utmost respect, and you, a second voice stated rather loudly, but less than Kaken usual, but was silenced by the explosive blonde's reply of shut up. He stared at the girl who entered first, having brown hair and a round face. She looked at him with gratefulness and relief. Midoriya-kun, you're fine. The girl ran to him and bowed. I'm Uraraka Akako. Thank you for saving me. I was shocked and worried when you teleported me to the entrance as the zero-pointer exploded. He chuckled weakly and face heated. It's okay. You don't have. The glasses-wearing teen looked bothered but then bowed. I am sorry for my earlier conduct, Midoriya-san. I should not have accused you of anything. It was uncalled for me to do so. You clearly saw more than us, and I admit you are better than me. Iida was so polite and weird with his lively arm gestures. It's fine, Iida-san. Shut up, Four Eyes. Deku, his friend, called as he entered followed by Iida-san. Kaken's face said it all. Sharp eyes, cold look, and twitching lips. Hi, Kaken, he waved at his friend lamely, as if that'll make him break his arm easily. Deku, his blonde friend demanded. How? Okay, he was prepared for this. He and All Might both agreed that this reason would be acceptable. He flinched internally at the thought of lying to his best friend. I didn't know either. He laughed awkwardly, holding his palm to placate a mad Katsuki. I just discovered it and started training 10 months ago. The energy I used in my warping can be turned to strength. Though, as you can see without proper control it's capable of destroying my body. Please accept it. Please accept it. It was the most reasonable one seeing, as one for all flowing in his body had the same hue as his portal. He hated lying, but it had to be done to keep All Might's secret. If he had a choice he might have already spilled the truth to them immediately, but it was not his sole secret alone. Kaken's unblinking gaze before clicking his teeth then looked away. And you thought you could use that to your advantage against me, smirked his best friend, as Izuku then sighed. No lame new strength is going to help you stop me from becoming number 1, Deku. And I told you to not fuck up. No sidekick of mine is gonna break his bone and lose consciousness every time you beat a villain. Why would you even face the goddamn zero-point robot Dumbus? One look from the elderly pro had him sneering towards another direction. Just get your ass up so that we can go home. Deku? Uraraka curiously asked. It's a nickname from when we were kids. Originally an insult meaning useless but the teen shrugged unperturbed. I'm used to Kaken calling me that. Iida's expression became shocked and gestured wildly. How can you say that to your best friend Bakugo-san? Uraraka-san's life was in danger and he was the only one heroic among us to save her life, so please refrain from calling him Deku. Shut up, Four Eyes. Izuku laughed at his new friend fighting to keep the blush from being obvious because of Uraraka's distance to him. It's okay, Iida-san. It's Kaken's unique affection. You guys can call me Izuku or Deku if you want to. Said Kaken growled in his words as small explosives came from him. Uraraka hummed in thought beside him. I like Deku. Deku sounds like you can do it. Iida gasps, no. You deserve much more than me calling you that. Such a kind person, as you will not be called demeaning, as that. I shall call you by your real name. You can also call me by my name. Iida looked at the silent pro-hero with him and bowed again. Recovery Girl, thank you for healing Midoriya-kun. Is he allowed to go home now? Yes, his arm is fine now, replied the healing hero, shooing them out. Now off you go children. It's already evening and your parents may be worried about you. Izuku wobbled as he stood and his vision turned hazy. Achako caught him, are you okay? Izuku could not answer as he blushed furiously at their closeness. I'm fine. He replied rather quickly. My quirk just exhausts me quickly. Nothing a rest would fix. Bakugo-kun will not help you friend, Iida gestured at him. He can carry his ass home. I ain't carrying him. That's fine. I can handle myself. No, you can't. Let me help you. He blushed more when Uraraka leaned closer and whispered at him, "Is he always like this?" A nod was his silent reply. The green-haired warp user decided to clarify himself. "Don't worry. It's just him being him. He would do it if we were alone." The girl smiled at his best friend as they walked, not before bowing and thanking the hero for her service. "So, kinda like those tsundeers in anime?" Uraraka giggled. Izuku burst out laughing with her too. Kitsuki didn't visibly react to her words. "Let me assist as you, Midoriya-kun." Izuku stopped him from propping him from his other side. "It's fine, Iida-kun." The blue-haired boy wanted to protest but reluctantly accepted his refusal. "Thanks guys," Izuku uttered as they walked in relative peace. Relative peace meaning Kaken being rude to his new friends and hurrying them. He just met Iida-kun, but he seemed like a nice person. Too formal and lively in his own way, but he could see Iida Tenya as a very sociable type of person. "You didn't have to wait for me. I can make it home alone since our house is near." Uraraka Achako, on the other hand, was a very happy person. One that you could possibly easily make laugh with a joke. The girl giggled. "It's fine, Deku-kun. I wanted to thank you personally and Iida wanted to wait for you too." "Nonsense, Midoriya-kun." Iida reacted. The blue-haired teen walked on his right side while Kitsuki took the lead. "I had to see if you were okay and to apologize for my rude remarks earlier." The warp quirk teen with his free gestures for Iida-kun to stop. It's fine. I'm used to it being hurt. Kaken, and I can't prevent that sometimes every time we practice." "You mean you two have been training since you were young?" asked Uraraka. "Damn right," his best friend replied. "What better time to get started than childhood?" Izuku's lips raised a little, remembering the times getting chewed by Mitsuki Abasan for getting reckless, even if it's just training. His mother, on the other hand, would be worried and be reproached by their recklessness. "Hurry up losers," Kitsuki looked at him sharply from his shoulders. It was a long way to the station, but he wouldn't mind it with the people accompanying him now. "Izuku? It's here. It's here." Izuku's mother ran to him frantically and breathless. In her hand, he was afraid of touching it, as if it would burn him. Did he do well in the exam? He knew he had somewhere around 40 points. He hoped that was enough to pass. "Thanks, Mom," he smiled at her, but on the inside the teen was scared. Really scared. Setting it on the table, Izuku activated it. "I am here." All Might screaming near his face caused him to tumble back. As a projection, the number 1 hero turned serious the next second. Did he not do well enough? Oh god, will he fail? His mentor rambled, or at least unknowingly tried to, but a man behind the scenes had him get to the point quickly. "You did splendidly in the written exam." The grin widened more. As for the practical test, Izuku held his breath when his idol paused. Many thoughts came to him as he wondered what he would say next. "Is admirable too, even if it barely passes. You have managed to earn 45 points. The teen clenched his fist, "As I thought. My quirk drained me faster than I expected." Even with guidance and training from All Might, his warp quirk was still too much. He knew from when his quirk first manifested that it would be hard no matter how rare it was. If that was all there was to it. His head whipped up faster than he thought possible. "I am an entertainer as well." Moving to the monitor, All Might grandiosity pointed at it. Uraraka-san wondered about Izuku. "And it looks like she was followed by Iida-kun." She shyly looked at present Mick. "Excuse me," Uraraka began. "Midoriya Izuku, the person with curly hair and freckles. Why was she looking for him?" "I don't know how many points he earned, but I wanted to thank him for saving me. Would it be possible for me to give some of my points?" "Yes," Iida added. "I would like to do that as well. He has shown me the truth about the entrance exams. Such a kind heart deserves much better, for he risked his own safety to save Uraraka-san and make sure the zero-pointer does not locate us." Iida bowed. A fluttering feeling swelled in his chest that made him reach out to his chest. He didn't do much to get their praise and points. It was too much for him. "Even if you ask to, you cannot give him your points," the voice hero stated, patting Uraraka's hair. "Don't worry, young listeners, the judges know what they're doing. Midoriya would be fine." All Might turned back to him grinning. "Not only did you save her, but you have also spurned young Iida and Uraraka to act. For you see, only in a hopeless situation does the heart of one reveal itself. The 0 point on the entrance exam is built for that purpose." The entrance exam was graded not only on villain points, but also on rescue points. His heart hammering his chest, his new friend's words filled him with happiness that they would go that far for him when they barely knew him at all. A hero is a job that requires one to constantly put his life at risk. If we do not recognize that act, then how can UA call itself a hero school? The monitor behind him showed the score, filling his heart with joy. Iida Tenya. Villain. 52. Rescue. 25. Uraraka Achako. Villain. 30. Rescue. 45. Midoriya Izuku. Villain. 45. Rescue. 60. His eyes began to glisten with tears. He made it. They made it. Now Midoriya to Your Hero Academia. Thanks for watching my video, sayonara.